Today, we're diving into one of the most insane battles of the entire Vietnam War. It's a story about impossible odds, unbelievable courage, and a battlefield completely upended by a freak monsoon. This is the Battle of Long Tân. And hey, if you like these deep dives into history, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button down below. It helps a ton. All right, so on one side of the equation, you have this. Just 108 soldiers. That's it. It's a single infantry company, D Company, from the Royal Australian Regiment, with a few folks from New Zealand attached. I mean, we're talking about a tiny force sent out on what everyone thought was just going to be another routine patrol. And who were they up against? Well, yeah, you are seeing that number right. An estimated force of somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 Viet Cong and North Vietnamese regulars. And these weren't rookies. They were battle-hardened veterans. The odds were, to be blunt, completely and utterly insane. So you've got to be asking, how in the world did this happen? How did 108 soldiers end up facing an army? Well, it all starts with why the Australians were even there and the very shaky position they were in at their brand new base. So here's the thing. There was a big disagreement on how to fight this war. The main American strategy was basically attrition, a grinding war of numbers. Just keep throwing men and material at the problem until the other side breaks. But the Australians, they had a different playbook. They believed in their own counterinsurgency tactics and wanted the freedom to use them. And once they got that freedom, things moved fast. They set up their base at Nui Dut in the middle of 1966. But just a couple of months later, on August 17th, bam! The Viet Cong hit them with a surprise mortar barrage. It was like a knock on the door, a little message that they were being watched, and that something bigger was coming. And that brings us to the very next day, August 18th. Following the mortar attack, D Company is sent out to patrol the area. They were walking into a perfectly laid trap that nobody saw coming. It starts out small, almost normal. At 3:40 p.m., they see a small enemy squad, maybe 8 guys. A few shots are exchanged, the enemy runs away. You'd think, okay, minor contact, no big deal. But that was the cheese in the mousetrap. It was the bait. Less than 30 minutes later, the trap springs shut. 11 Platoon, which was a little ahead of the others, is just suddenly hammered by a tidal wave of machine gun fire and RPGs from a massive hidden force. The battle was on, and it was brutal from the first second. And as if being outnumbered more than 20-1 wasn't bad enough, the universe decided to make things even worse. A torrential monsoon storm just appears out of nowhere. Visibility drops to practically zero. The sound of gunfire gets mixed with the roar of the rain. And in all that chaos, the Viet Cong make their move, trying to surround D Company and wipe them out completely. So now it's not just a firefight anymore. This is a fight for survival. D Company is completely trapped, outnumbered, and now even the weather is trying to kill them. The sheer violence of the attack was just off the charts. I mean, get your head around this. In 20 minutes, less time than a sitcom episode, over a third of the lead platoon was down, either killed or wounded. They were just being systematically taken apart. It became this absolutely desperate scramble. The Aussies scream for artillery support, which is their only real lifeline. The Viet Cong just push harder. 10 Platoon tries to flank left. Nope, beaten back by a wall of fire. 12 Platoon tries to move right, pinned down instantly. Every move they made was met with overwhelming force. So really, put yourself there for a second. You're almost out of ammo. You can barely see your hand in front of your face because of the rain. An army is closing in on you from all sides. How could this possibly end in anything other than total disaster? But then, right at the darkest moment, when everything seemed lost, something changed. Those desperate calls for help were heard, and against all odds, a rescue mission was on its way. This rescue was a two-pronged attack. First, you have these 2 Aussie Air Force helicopter pilots who are just unbelievably brave, flying straight into that storm to airdrop ammo. At the same time, a column of armored personnel carriers leaves the base. And this was the game changer. These APCs didn't stick to paths. They literally crashed through the dense jungle, catching the enemy's flanking force completely by surprise. You see, the Viet Cong were prepared to fight infantry in the jungle. They were not prepared for armored vehicles to come smashing through the trees in the middle of a monsoon. The shock of it, combined with the sudden massive increase in firepower, just broke the back of their attack. It completely shattered their morale. The shooting finally tapered off around 7:15 p.m. D Company, exhausted and beaten, was pulled out that night, convinced they had just suffered a terrible defeat. But they had no idea what the morning light would show them. Can you imagine going back to that same patch of ground the next day? The soldiers from D Company thought they had barely escaped with their lives. But as they started to clear the area, the reality of the situation began to sink in. They hadn't lost. They had won. And they had won in a way that should have been completely impossible. The final numbers are, well, they speak for themselves. The Australian and New Zealand force lost 18 men, with another 21 wounded, a huge cost for such a small unit. But the Viet Cong, they left behind 245 confirmed dead on the battlefield, and their total losses were likely much, much higher. It was a victory against all imaginable odds. So Long Tân was a massive tactical win. It completely disrupted enemy plans in that area for a long, long time. But here's the tough part of the story. For the soldiers themselves, the fight wasn't over. Because of some really restrictive rules about medals at the time, the incredible heroism shown that day went officially unrecognized for decades. It's a powerful reminder that a battle story doesn't end when the shooting stops. And that is the incredible story of the Battle of Long Tân. It's a powerful testament to courage, tactics, and how the right support at the right time can literally change everything. If you found this explainer interesting, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that shaped our world. Thanks for watching.